I feel the earth move under my feet. I feel the sky tumbling down, tumbling down. Are you old enough to remember that Carole King song that came out in 1971? Of course, she was singing about falling in love. But the imagery that she used, the earth moving under our feet, the sky tumbling down, almost word for word, comes out of the scripture readings that we have just heard. The book of Daniel in our first reading and the section of the 13th chapter of Mark's gospel that is assigned for this Mass are filled with what is called apocalyptic imagery. Apocalyptic readings speak of a great calamity in which suffering and persecution will be severe and the whole world will be turned upside down. The earth moving, the sky tumbling down. The book of Daniel was written to give encouragement to the people of Israel who were being persecuted by Antiochus IV Epiphanes around 165 years before the birth of Jesus Christ. We hear Daniel quote the archangel Michael, who predicts a time unsurpassed in distress. Likewise, chapter 13 of Mark's gospel has been called by some scripture scholars the little apocalypse, because in its language and form, it is so much like the book of Revelation. In the section that precedes what we have just heard, Jesus is sitting and speaking to his favorite four disciples, James, John, Andrew, and Peter, sitting in the Garden of Olives just a few days before his arrest there and then his execution across the valley. From this vantage point, they could see the temple, Herod's temple, built on the site of Solomon's temple, which had been destroyed by the Babylonians. It was such a magnificent edifice that it had taken years to build, and was one of the great wonders of the ancient world. To his disciples, who were a kind of group of country bumpkins from Galilee, it must have seemed like the most beautiful sight in all the world. So we can imagine their befuddlement when Jesus tells them that within a few years, this temple of Herod will be torn down. And indeed, within 40 years, the Romans would do just that. Then Jesus goes on to say that not only will the temple be destroyed, but in fact, the entire cosmos will come crashing down. They must have wondered, what kind of prophecy is this? The moral theologian Connor M. Kelly, who teaches at Marquette University, suggests that contemporary readers approach apocalyptic literature with the wrong attitude, namely with fear and trepidation, based on the assumption that it's predicting something ominous and foreboding. He says that, quote, the real intent of today's readings is not to condemn or even to warn, but rather to offer a source of renewed hope. He then gives an example of the difference between looking at a picture of the Coast Guard rescuing a lost boater from a raging storm and being the person adrift at sea as the helicopter arrives. He suggests that the aloof viewer sees the waves and the storm and fears nature's ferocious power. On the other hand, the struggling swimmer focuses his or her energy on the approaching rescuer, because that is the only way to survive. Whereas the first sees only a threat, the other sees salvation, despite the fact that both are looking at the same scene. In other words, apocalyptic writings are intended to encourage those who are undergoing difficulties and offer them a vision of a future filled with life and peace. The very word apocalypse in Greek means to pull back the veil. It doesn't have to do with the end of time or disaster, to pull back the veil, or in Latin, to reveal something that is about to happen. Hence, the last book of the Bible is called the book of Revelation. Today's readings are pulling back the veil to reveal a new and glorious future. Now, these apocalyptic readings might seem so foreign, so long ago and far away, and altogether too technical. After all, who among us sits around worrying about the end of time? Well, that might have been true a couple years ago, But now that we've experienced a global pandemic, perhaps it seems like something we can not only understand, but something with which we can even identify. Apocalyptic literature has been defined as arising out of a community whose very existence is being threatened by deadly forces. Isn't that exactly what we've been experiencing for the last year and a half? Watching the world shut down and our lives come apart at the seams opens us up to apocalyptic imagery, which, while appearing to be exaggerated, is probably the most suitable way of describing a dire situation. But we must remember that the lesson that this genre of writing proclaims is that good always triumphs over evil, and our struggles are only temporary, and they will be overcome by the triumph of the God who loves us. The God who saved the Israelites from exile, not just once, but twice, the God who raised Jesus from the dead, is the same God who will never abandon us. Daniel reassures the Israelites that at that time your people shall escape. And Jesus guarantees that the Son of Man is coming in the clouds with great power and glory. Instead of worrying about end-time events, we are invited today to live our lives with confidence and hope, knowing that God is always with us, and that no matter the extent of the storm or the devastation it might bring, the storm will pass over, and God will bring us to the dawn of a day of unending glory. Carole King sang that she felt the earth move under her feet and the sky tumbling down. She sang that because she was falling in love. If you feel the earth move under your feet and see the sky tumbling down, don't run for cover, but look up and rejoice, because the God who loves you is near.